Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
Visit the beanbag. But for a while we had Fillian's beanbag, and which I guess sounds like the name of a book, you know. I read it when I'm wearing dresses by Fred Diaphanous. So I read Fillian's beanbag.
Hey, this is Carey L. Jones, and you're listening to Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast that normalized calling someone a scruffy-looking nerf herder and turned it into a compliment. All right, so our guest today has been around the Hollywood scene for quite some time, and a lot of his work has been behind the camera in the special effects and the studio makeup department, but he's been involved in a lot of movies, a lot of things that you're very, very familiar with. However, lately, you may have seen him bring a certain comic book Wookie bounty hunter to life on the screens of the Book of Boba Fett. I was originally going to do a Wookie scream there, but that didn't seem like a good thing. Anyway, we are proud to welcome Carey Jones, aka Black Krrsantan, to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Welcome to the show, Carey.
Glad to be here. What an introduction. I like it.
Well, it'd have been worse if I would have done the Wookie scream, so I'm glad I didn't. So
I mean, the Wookie scream is pretty iconic. So and actually to hear you do it might even be better.
Do it, Tim.
No, not gonna do it. So
you could always edit it out if it's terrible.
No, Nick would. That's the thing. Nick would not edit it out. I know, Nick.
We could.
So
we would.
So, Carey, we've got lots to talk about with you here today. You have your career in special effects, your work in acting as well. You've been on both sides of the camera. But before we talk about any of those other things, there's a giant Wookie in the corner that we have to talk about first. So, for those who aren't aware or who haven't caught on yet, you play Black Krrsantan on the Book of Boba Fett. And I don't know about anyone else, but I giggled when you came on screen and you growled. And I was like, oh my God, who's that? I had no idea who Black Krrsantan was. I had to do some serious research. But yeah, all of a sudden I was like, I want him to be my new best friend. I have to figure out who this guy is. So if you would please tell us about how this role came about for you and how you got the role of Black Krrsantan.
Listen, you and me both. I mean, when it came around, I was told it was a Wookiee, but I wasn't told specifically which one. So quite frankly, I thought it was like I don't know. I thought maybe it was Chewbacca's backstory. Who knows? I don't know where my mind went with it because they were very close to the chest that I didn't really know too much. And then once I finally was told who it was, then I had to do the same thing. I had to do the research, and then once I kind of found all the graphic novels, I said, whoa, this dude has a really awesome backstory, and a sordid history with just about everybody in the Star Wars canon, which was awesome. He has a base to run with everyone, which is great. So it really excited me once I really kind of did the research, and then the other thing was it was like I had to take a deep kind of gulp because I'm a Star Wars fan. And I know how voracious Star Wars fans are, as me being one of them. So I was like, I can't mess this up. So the first month after I got the role, I was like terrified because I said, man, if I mess this up, this is just going to be so bad. So that was the other part. It was like just figuring out kind of what I could bring to it, because it's the first time this guy's ever been in live action ever. Yeah, so it was a lot on my mind for a solid few months before we even started filming. It was pretty crazy, but it was awesome. It was great. It's like one of the first movies that I saw in a movie theater was Empire. So
nice
to now kind of be in it is like some weird out of body experience.
Childhood dream come true is what that is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, for certain.
So, Carey, let me ask you this: with being a Star Wars fan, and I originally wasn't going to ask you this question, but I always love to. Now that you said that you are a Star Wars fan, I need to know. You said the first movie that you remember seeing was Empire, but where is your entry point for Star Wars fandom? Was it in fact Empire that got you hooked, or was it Return of the Jedi, or was it something else that said, "Man, this is where I want to hang my hat as far as fandom is concerned"?
Well, because I wasn't born yet when I was actually, it came out the year after I was born, so I was one. I hadn't seen A New Hope yet, and so when Empire came out, I was old enough to go to the theater to see it.
Right.
So, and when I went to the theater to see it, I remember we got tickets, took buses across town to get up to the theater, and from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we were late, right? And so I'm freaking out that my family wants to get popcorn and candy, and I'm like, guys, forget that, let's get inside. So I get in there, when I remember it's pitch black, all the seats are filled, and I'm walking down the aisle, and because we came so late, our seats weren't together. So I think I was sitting over here with maybe my mom or baby by myself, and someone was behind me, someone else, my brothers and sisters were all over. And but when I walked in, it was like the beginning scroll, and I had missed just a very, very part of it. And I was, and I'm reading it, and I did not want to sit in my seat because I was afraid if I turned away to sit down, I'd miss something else, and they're trying to drag me into my seat, like, oh, sit down. And I sat down and I watched it all the way through until the lights went up. My family wanted to leave. I was like, I want to look at the credits. I want to see who every single person that had anything to do with this and remember their names. And the lights went up, and, the ushers were coming in to start cleaning up. And that's when I finally was like, all right, I'm leaving. And my family was waiting outside for me. And so I think in terms of Star Wars goes, it was Empire. And then of course, Jedi came out, and I was trying to make me like a little Rancor puppet at home and trying to draw it. And I think they had like, Star Wars cereal that on the back of it, you can cut out like different things. I think there was a Chewbacca mask, like different things on the back of the box you cut out to make masks. And I remember there was
those.
Like a little book that I had, a coloring book, that in the back of the book, it had Wookie cookies. So there was a recipe that were Wookie cookies, and actually all they were was oatmeal cookies. That's what they were, but they called them Wookie cookies. So I'd always want to make those. So that's kind of what kind of, had a Star Wars lunchbox, the whole nine, man. So when I say I'm a fan, whatever you want to call it, I am 100% that.
I love it. This is great.
I love that so much too.
There's so much of what you just said that reminds me of my own experiences growing up, because Empire, I was one when New Hope came out, so I never saw that in the theater originally. I remember going to Empire. I remember going to Return of the Jedi, and I've seen every movie in the theater since then. And I remember being all excited about getting the cereal boxes that had the masks cut out on the back, so I could be, I wanted to be Darth Vader when I was a kid. I just thought it was really cool. He scared me, and that made him cool. And I remember wanting to run around with that and smacking anything with I could with a stick because it was a lightsaber.
Lightsaber,
Oh, of course.
So
yeah, I was 7 when Phantom Menace came out in theaters. So that was my first theater experience with Star Wars.
She's a baby.
I am.
Phantom Menace. Okay.
I am.
Listen. I was however old I was, and I was standing, and when Phantom Menace came out, because it was so long before another Star Wars movie came out, and so that to me, from my memory, was like the first time that there was like a line like out the theater since the originals, right?
Out and around,
that was out the theater. And you had to buy tickets like months in advance, or else you were not going to see it on opening night. And we got to the theater, and that's when we had a group of us that I worked with. We had someone get there early and kind of set up, sleeping there early, so that we get a place in line. The line was like literally down the street. So that was a big one too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my brothers are 12 and 10 years older than me. So my oldest brother had just graduated from high school, and they decided that they wanted to take their little sisters to go see Star Wars. And I'm like, okay, I've seen 4, 5, and 6. Like, we had them on DVD. We watched them at home. And I remember sitting in the theater, and it was like a 10 o'clock showing. It was like a 10 a.m. showing midweek. Nobody else was in the theater except for the 4 of us.
Wow.
And that first chord hits of the theme song, and I'm like, I'm in love. I don't even care what happens with the rest of the movie now. Like,
no,
that magic like, just hits so fast.
100%. Yeah, no, you said it right. It's and listen, it's the same thing with The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Like that music is so striking.
It gets me hyped every time
when it comes on. It like that kind of holds you in too. And I remember we were shooting Book of Boba Fett. I was talking to John Favreau, and we were talking about like, I was basically nerding out with him, telling him how crazy this is and whatever. And he goes, just wait until you see it and wait until the score comes out.
Oh,
and so once he said it to me, I'm like, oh my God, I like pins and needles waiting to see the tone of how it was going to be scored. And when I finally heard it, it literally played in my head. When we did the first episode that I was on set with for Book of Boba Fett, I literally played the theme to Mandalorian in my head in between takes over and over. And that was my motivation. Every
Right.
time they yelled
That's
cut,
cool.
I'd walk away and I'd pace around and it would just be playing like in my head the entire time to kind of keep me in it. And I go do it and walk away. And, so you're right, that the music too.
Sets
the
the
original
tone. Yeah.
Star Wars for sure is so big.
And so like Tim mentioned with the giggling as soon as your character walks on screen, I did not giggle. I had that moment of oh, it's a Wookiee. Oh, that's a mean Wookiee. I am suddenly very uncomfortable. Like, it was because I grew up with Chewbacca and I expected Chewbacca. You expect that warm, like, teddy bear of a Wookiee.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see your character and you're like, oh, he's scary. He's scary. I like it. But in that same sort of mindset as Tim's question, all of the other Wookiees that we've seen on screen have been the good guys. And like you said, this is the on-screen debut for the comic book character. So how did you prepare yourself for being the mean Wookiee?
Right. So that's a great question. I mean, you're right. Every time we've seen, any Wookiees and obviously Peter Mayhew and Chewbacca, he was the good guy, right? And we only saw hints of his anger, like very, very hints when he had to, right? When he had to jump in and save someone or be menacing to some degree. But for the most part, he showed a lot of emotion, And I had actually, pretty crazy, is that I had a conversation with Angie, his wife, a few days ago, and I was saying to her that he played that emotion extremely well. Empire was probably the movie where you saw the full range of it, from him kind of being sad because Han Solo got encased in carbonite, and then also being taken away, trying to save him. And, and it's even when he's putting back together C-3PO, he just has a lot of range of motion on that spectrum, where, Krrsantan is just basically taking all the anger and the muscle out of Chewbacca, and it's just amping that side of it up. He doesn't really have too much of the other side, and mainly because his backstory, he's just been kind of double crossed so many times in his life that he just has a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't trust anyone. So that's how I played it. And I said, how would you be and how would you kind of carry yourself if you just don't trust anyone? Every single person you meet, you assume at some point that they're going to stab you in the back.
Right.
And so a lot of that was not turning your back to people, always keeping an eye on them, so that's where like the side eye came into whenever I would kind of side eye, guys when I'm walking past them, or even certain scenes where I was walking away, I never turned my back fully. I would always kind of go sideways and walk a certain way. So it's little things like that. And again, as a performer, if you don't have your face, it's all in like your stance and your mannerisms and how you act with your body and your eyes, really. So I just thought about that and just put myself into that space of mistrust and always having a chip on my shoulder, and I would stare in the mirror and kind of just do certain things with my eyes and look around and say, oh, I like that, I'll use it for this scene or that scene. So,
and I mean, with the amount of prosthetic, with the amount of hair, there's a lot of facial features that are hidden behind that you have to emote so much more. And you did a fantastic job. I mean, you can tell that he's a jaded, beaten character. You can see it in his face that he doesn't trust anybody. He's not going to turn his back on them. And that's impressive to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, it was more of just trying to create kind of what his edge was, and then again reacting of that, because even when I'm inside Garza's place,
Mhm.
that at that point I'm kind of betrayed, right? And I'm kind of disappointed and I'm like ready to snap. so
Right.
so when I'm sitting there, the whole time I'm like, okay, what does that feel in real life? Like, how would I sit? Would I sit this way or would I sit that way? And I'm just drinking my sorrows away. What would a dude look like if it was a person in a bar drinking his sorrows away, ready to snap
Yeah.
and have a bar fight and
Just waiting for somebody to look at him
just
wrong.
the history. And again, even with Jon Favreau, just the history of the backstory of him and Trandoshans, so I'm sitting there, I've been betrayed, I'm drinking my sorrows away. There's these other people that have had such a sordid history with not only myself, but just, Wookiees in general.
Right.
How would I react to that?
And I feel like that's something that a casual Star Wars casual Star Wars fan would miss. They would miss the history between Trandoshans and Wookiees. But to have that scene portrayed, that was, again, that's one of those moments where you have to look at it with wait, I don't know who that character is, and now I have to research who he is and why he's acting that way. And getting people more into the Star Wars lore is kind of brilliant on
and that's great. That's why I like it so much. I mean, one of the other things, like one of the questions that I got, and then I see the fans say, like, I have a giant gun, and why would I try to beat Boba into submission with my hands? But if you think about the character, you think about what a gladiator was. A gladiator was put into a pit, and it's a show, right? So if you think of what a gladiator is, like, and just in the Greek, they're showmen. They don't want to quickly kill someone because then you got to please the crowd. You quickly kill somebody, it's over. Then that's not a show. So
Right.
It's like a cat and mouse thing, right? When cats capture mice, they don't eat them right away. They injure them and they bat them in the head. They let the mice think that they can kind of get away. They grab them again and they bat. So that's the thinking. He likes to fight with his hands. If he had a choice, he'd rather beat you into submission, and that's the best way to show dominance because that's how he was trained. He's a gladiator, right? He'll pull out his gun if he has to, if he's like, down like 13-1 maybe, but for the most part, he's going to try to do what he can with his his brass knuckles and armor, because that's just his first thought. That's just what he's done for years. He was a gladiator for years and years, and that's why I also like how Garza says that, right? She kind of says it in that scene. She says, well, I know you've been in the pits and you're used to the chairs and you're used to say that's what he wants. That's what he's used to. That's like, burn into his brain. So when he's tasked with, hey, we got to take down the great Boba Fett, that's a great man. I could go in and shoot him, but what kind of story is that to tell? I want to tell people that I beat him into submission. I kind of knocked him around a bit. And then I killed him, right? And that's just kind of in my mind. That's kind of how I played it and kind of made it make sense, which I think it does.
It totally does. Yeah,
It
I'll
really
give you that
does.
for sure. I think that the way that you played the bar scene, you were side-eyeing those Trandoshans pretty well. And I sat there watching that the whole scene. I'm like, this ain't gonna end well for one of them poker dudes. One of them poker dudes is going down, so that was pretty cool. I like the fact to kind of piggyback on what Kathleen was saying. I love the fact that a lot of what's happening right now in the Star Wars universe is getting us to go back and look at other shows, all these gentle nods to other shows and other things. And even the tie-in with the Wookiee and Trandoshan feud is really cool, especially if you go back to the Clone Wars episode where, a couple of the Padawans get hunted because they get lost on Trandoshan. It's a really cool episode, and one of them is a Wookiee, and it's explained there that, the Trandoshans hunt Wookiees for sport. And it's really kind of cool. And so, to see that all kind of played out on the screen, just really well done, sir.
I have to say it was really funny too, watching the first scene of you being on Boba Fett. Because Tim talked about his reaction. I talked about my reaction. My husband is sitting next to me and goes, "That's Black Krrsantan." I'm like, "Who? How do you know that?" He's like, "Because he's in the comics." I'm like, "Nerd. Wow."
I swear I've seen him somewhere else in the Star Wars
That's
thing.
just your brain wants
Like
to think it.
he
but
wasn't
no.
in any like the early video games or anything.
That's
Like,
called the Mandela effect. You believe that it happened.
I was about to say, I think you believe it is because the character is familiar, but him specifically, you have not seen. No.
Right.
no,
No, there's been other Wookiees in other games, other Wookiee characters, but not Black Krrsantan.
Gotcha. So most of your credits are in the special effects area, and you've worked on projects like Galaxy Quest and Jurassic Park 3, Terminator 3, and like we don't get to hear a lot from the back end of those shows. So what were some projects that were close to your heart that you really enjoyed working on?
Well, I mean, a lot of the ones you just said, and only because, again, just you know, as a movie fan and just as a fan of like effects in general, as a kid growing up, these are all movies that I would watch in the theater and see like, oh my God, it'd be great to have worked on it, right? Because at that point, I'm like, they're never going to do this again. So then, 10, 15 years later, hey, guess what? They're doing a sequel to Terminator, Aliens, Jurassic Park, and you get to work on it. So I think just for that reason alone, all three of those are pretty spectacular, and I could truly say that just in my career, all my favorite movies growing up, I got to work on a sequel of those movies, like,
Oh, that's cool.
my favorite sci-fi movie is Alien 2, Aliens, and then Predator, and then Terminator 1 and 2, and then, and I got to work on a sequel of all of those. So it was pretty crazy. So I get to ask that question a lot, and I can't pinpoint one because all of them, for whatever reason, I think holds a pretty high place in my heart in terms of that, because I'm very nostalgic in that. I mean, to the extent that most of the movies I watch nowadays are 80s films that I can watch 300 times. It's really rare that I watch a new movie.
I get that.
But yeah, so a lot of it is that. A lot of the movies that I think that are at the top of my list are ones that I was a fan of a kid and got a chance to work on as an adult. And then others are just because of the people that I worked with. Predators was awesome because not only did I get a chance, Greg Nicotero gave me a chance to be one of the Predators, but I also was able to work on it and be a creative on it as well, helping build a lot of this stuff. And I had a great time. We shot that with Rob Rodriguez and Austin and in Hawaii and Nimrod Antal directing, and it was a lot of fun. The crew and everybody was pretty amazing.
All right,
Fun.
cool. So as we've been talking about here, clearly acting isn't the only thing that's in your resume of things that you've done on screen. Nick mentioned a few of the projects you've been in, a few more that some of our fans of the show might like to know that you've been involved with, are like Alita Battle Angel, The New Mutants. You mentioned Predators. There's The Walking Dead. I could read down your IMDb list and everybody be like, oh, wow, he was part of that, because that's what I did. I went, oh, wow, he was part of that, which is always kind of a cool thing to do when I look at somebody's IMDb resume.
He won an Emmy for his work on The Walking Dead.
Yes, he did. I was
That
getting
is
there.
impressive.
I was getting there.
I'm too excited, okay?
I know, but congratulations on your Emmy, sir. That's an amazing
you.
thing.
Thank you.
So what were your influences, though? And this is where all that was going. What were your influences, though, growing up that made you want to be involved in the special effects side of things instead of maybe being in front of the camera so much at first?
Well, it's funny enough, right? So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and we had one television, black and white television at first. And on that television, back before cable and whatnot, we only had like 3 stations, right? And one of the stations would play Superman, the original Superman, George Reeves, black and white. And it's just curiosity. And I would watch that and I say, I'd ask my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters, like, how does he fly? Or how does he pick up a car? Or how does he run through a wall? And how does he bend metal? And so you know, that just started my curiosity trying to figure that stuff out, you know, and the library, I'd go to the library and read whatever books I could about movies and things like that. You know, I did want to be an actor, like I've said before, you know, as well. And when I was at home, you know, I'd do makeups on myself and wherever I could find around the house. I think I did like an old man makeup on myself with like cotton and syrup to glue to my face, and I'd film me trying to act like an old man, and you know, whatever monsters I would do and try to perform those, and just throughout time, just the opportunities came more on the makeup effects side than anything. I mean, I did a few things in Pittsburgh. I did like a couple of commercials, things like that, but just for opportunity, makeup effects came in, and I did develop a passion for it. The more and more I learned about it, the more stuff I did at home, the more people encouraged me to do it, the more people told me, hey, you know, you should kind of look into that more. That were actually in the industry and in my art classes, things like that, and that's kind of how it spawned. And then more and more movies came out that I think my era that were pretty groundbreaking in terms of makeup effects. You know, like I said, the Terminators came out, the Aliens came out, and the Thing came out, and The Fog, and you know, John Carpenter movies, and then there was that era of the slasher films. And that was like this bubble of all these movies happening, coming out around my childhood. And it's like, oh my God, you know, that's what I want to make. I want to make stuff like that, you know, and then being from Pittsburgh, and Tom Savini was there, and you know, and I was in Pittsburgh at the tail end of when he was still doing stuff, filming in Pittsburgh. And so I think it was just that bubble of stuff that was happening at the time, just kind of geared me towards doing more makeup effects. And then once I got to California, you know, I did try to, you know, keep my foot on both sides of acting, but just the makeup effects was just something that just happened more, you know, and I was getting jobs and working, you know, at different shops around town, and then finally in 2002, I started working for K&B Effects Group, and I've really been with those guys ever since. And quite honestly, couldn't imagine myself anywhere else.
That's
nice.
Awesome. Makeup effects are awesome. There's so much you can do with liquid latex and cornstarch and water, and it just. I
tell you, the first material I ever had was latex ever that I got that was actually like a made product for makeup effects. And if I tell you, I coveted it like gold. Like I would do little things on my arm, like stretch and stipple. Before I even knew what that was, I just kind of on my own figured it out, and I would do, you know, little bit at a time and try to do different things. Just with that, yeah, that's the first thing I ever had was latex, liquid latex, and I did everything I possibly could with it.
I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping that you were gonna say it was the Star Wars cereal mask that made you want to be in special effects, but
that stuff came before the Star Wars stuff, but it did. Listen, I can't tell you how many things I made out of cardboard, Star Wars related. Whether it was a mask, I made a lightsaber. I just made it, you know, rolled it up out of cardboard and made that a lightsaber. And I would take boxes and try to make little droids and robots and vehicles and stuff out of just boxes. My mom, I would just get boxes from her job. I was like, Mom, you got extra boxes? And she'd bring boxes home. And that was like my material that I'd cut and try to make into weird stuff in my room and color it. But yeah, no, I mean,
I understand
it's just a childhood imagination. Just that thirst for wanting to learn more and how to do stuff and wanting to make things. Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I would get cardboard boxes, and after my older brother had moved out, our closet was a big closet, but it was underneath a stairwell as well, so it kind of sloped down. So there's only so much you could put towards the back end. So I took cardboard boxes and I did it all up to it was my inside of the Millennium Falcon right at the back end of that was my Millennium Falcon. That was where my ship was. And you know, because one of my favorite
mind, like even like if you were to go back and look at it today, it would be like, wow, what was I doing? But in your mind as a kid, that every switch, every light
was legit.
Was legit. It looked like legit. It was like in your mind, it was like, oh my gosh. And I always say that because when I got older, I don't have it anymore, but I had some that I made as a kid. It was like a little ship. It was like a Star Wars ship that I made out of like paper clips and like some cardboard and tape. And as a kid, I could have swore it looked exactly like an X-wing. It had the detail of the panels and the lights and the cockpit, you know. And I saw it as I was on. I was like, what is that? What was I, you know?
It wasn't anything like it.
Kid, your imagination is like you put two sticks together, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's
yeah.
So
Yeah, I get that.
Having those amazing special effects credits under your belt already, do you have your great white whale of a project that you've got your sights set on? Is there special effects that you really, really want to do?
No, because I mean, I guess I'm at an age where I don't see it ending quite yet. So I feel like if I say, okay, that'll be the one, then it's like, I guess my career is over. So
we don't want that.
No, and also too, I like every project that comes in, you know, I covet, right? You know, I give my attention, my utmost attention to. I think that's that in that moment, I cherish it as if that's the one, you know, because I think the reason why maybe I've gotten as far as I have, because I never assume tomorrow is guaranteed. So everything that I get, I'm like, okay, this could be it or that could be it. And so I never look, I mean, I know what I want to do in terms of my career, but in terms of a specific project, I never say, oh, that. Now, if you want me to set my goals and say what I would like to do, I would say it would be awesome if I could get, like, you know, be a Marvel character and you know, be a principal in a Marvel character or something like that.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Or even a new, you know, character that was just developed from a graphic novel or something like that. I would love to do that. You know, I'm always for that.
That'd be really cool.
Of the special effects and makeup jobs that you've done, which one was the hardest? Which one was the hardest to get the way that you wanted it to look?
We say the most challenging, perhaps.
Yeah.
The most challenging. Well, the most challenging things that to do for any makeup effects artist is the human stuff. And what I mean by human, it's like old age makeups and replicate heads and fake bodies and things like that. Because, you know, if you make a creature that no one has seen before that you're designing, no one can look at it and say, that's not what an alien looks like.
Right.
Because who knows what an alien looks like, right? But you can always look at someone's face and say, that doesn't look like an old man, because everybody in our lives has seen an old man or a young person or whatever it is. So you can correlate and look at it and tell instantly what's wrong. So that's always like the hardest thing to do. So I think, you know, anything that I've done and K&B's done and any shop that I've worked at has done is just that sort of stuff. You know, the replica bodies and heads, things like that. I mean, we did a lot of stuff like that for Django and for Hateful Eight and for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We had to make replicas of a lot of the people and things like that for Quentin, and that's just always the hardest thing, the thing that takes the most time and the most attention to detail, because there's something slightly off. You know, if you're making a replica of, like, you know, of Christoph Waltz or whoever, and like, you know, you get the eyes not spaced right, or if the lips aren't right, or the paint job's not right, or the hairline's weird, it just throws it off. And then, you know, when you're trying to go from that to him and him to that, it just doesn't work. So I think when that stuff comes along, I always try to pay extra attention to it. I always try to just double check it and look at, do side-by-side comparisons and literally just even down to where the eyebrows are put, you know. So whenever, you know, we have different departments and at K&B that handle, you know, different things. You know, you have the sculptor that sculpts it, you have mold makers, you have the painters, you have the you know, the hair people, to the people that cast it, to the people that help assemble it. There's so many different aspects of that could go wrong going from one department to the next. So it's really important to keep an eye on that, to make sure everybody's working together to make sure that the end product is what it needs to be. So
nice.
So
Okay.
that, I mean, that's honestly, again, that's one of the hardest things, you know, because if you're say you're doing like a body for some movies that we do, projects that we do, we can do like a, you know, a dismembered body, you know, And again, most people hopefully hasn't seen that in real life. And
Right.
so if you make a body that has to look a certain way in terms of gore, there's a lot of ways you can kind of, fix that or make it look right or weird. And then a lot of times what we make as replicas and that sort of thing, actually the real thing looks fake, because we get references of what the real thing looks like, as morbid as that is. We did a movie called Savages, and Oliver Stone sent us references of real bodies that were decapitated, dismembered, and laid in the streets, and that stuff to look fake. And then when you match that sometimes and you look at it in front of the camera, it looks fake. So there's certain things that we do to say, okay, I understand that's real, but to camera and to the audience, we have to add these other things.
Yeah.
To kind of make it look real to the eye and the camera. So that's the hardest thing, honestly. That's one of the harder things to do when we're doing more realistic things as opposed to creatures.
See, and I always would have thought that like the creatures, and specifically like Walking Dead with the zombies and the decaying, like I figured that would be harder because there's so many little things. I didn't think about making things look real being the challenge to it, but that actually makes a lot of sense. That's actually really cool to learn.
Yeah, I mean, with The Walking Dead, and I mean, there's a lot of latitude that we got, because the reality is that if a body's decayed to that extent, they wouldn't be up and walking, even if it was still alive. Like if you're decayed to that degree, you just wouldn't be able to walk, because there's still just physics, right? There's muscles and there's tendons that pull certain things. So if this is rotted off, so I think there is such a latitude that we can go, and I think it's really about, and Greg's vision is like just to make it look interesting, and that's what he always says. It has to look interesting. It has to look aesthetically interesting, and I think again that's the latitude there, because some of the things we do in real life wouldn't happen, but to make it look interesting and look great and have an aesthetic to it, a certain look that he wants to have. There's a lot of things that we do to kind of add to that. Because again, reality is that if a body was reanimated for 30 years, it would be dust. Right. If you look on, they have like those sort of studies of bodies, right? And like the body farm, and they literally will have bodies out, and they'll show you after 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, and probably by like the 1 to 2 week mark, it's just bones and nothing left. So anyway, so it's a little bit of that suspension of belief sort of thing, or disbelief sort of thing. So there's a lot of
fascinating though. I absolutely find it fascinating, because it is so cool what you guys can make look realistic, even though it's prosthetics, and it's just, I've always thought
it's a form of because really you're adding with prosthetics, you're adding, and you're not taking away. But even though we're adding, we're still able to make things look smaller. But it's just literally, it's just certain tricks that all makeup effects artists do to the eye. To make the stomach look smaller, you in fact build the chest out. So a lot of times when we make people look emaciated in the stomach, we're actually making them bigger. Right. But that's in theory that's counterproductive, but that's what we do, and then it's just tricks to the camera, right? And so if an arm's missing, sometimes we do have actual amputees, but in that moment that we can't, you'll have an arm behind the back, like this, and you have the stump coming out there, and as long as the camera stays on that side, you can't see the real arm. So a lot of it is placement of camera. It's just kind of a team of people just making sure that we're able to pull off the illusion.
As somebody who can never get her eyeliner to match, even, I'm amazed. Absolutely amazed.
So you have a lot of experience in the effects world. What advice would you like to give to like a younger you or someone entering the makeup effects world?
I always like to say just never stop learning and never stop being open-minded to learn more, and not only about your specific skill, but also understanding other skills, because it's always works together, right? Because if you're doing an effect and you don't understand about cameras and camera angles, things like that, then the effect doesn't work. It can blow the effect. Or if you don't have a relationship with that person, it makes it tough. Or even nowadays, visual effects is such a tool that we use, and we don't want to make their job harder, and they don't in turn want our job to be hard. So a lot of times having some knowledge, even if you're a makeup effects artist, to know about how visual effects works and lighting works, because sometimes our gags work best in certain lighting, and so it's just to me, I always say just constantly being a student and being voracious and wanting to learn more and understand more about your craft and your art. And a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just being an illusionist to some degree. That's one of the things that actually in Pittsburgh, because when I grew up, they didn't have a makeup shop or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first places that I went to was a magic shop. And when I went in there, I was like, I saw different illusions and different things, and I'm like, oh, hey, wait a minute, this is like, being a magician, like, and that was my direct relation. So I'd always drive across town to the south side, and I'd go to this magic shop, and I'd see different magic tricks that they have in there. There was one, and actually that's the first time I saw like a fake hand. I think it was like this gag where, like, it's like this, like, you have a hand that's like, and then you shake someone's hand and they pull it off, and it's like, oh, it's a fake hand. So I saw that sitting there, and I was like, hey, oh my gosh, So I think that's the first time I started seeing stuff like that in a magic shop. And then down the line, they ended up having this Bob Kelly makeup kit that I couldn't afford, but I would go in there and covet every time I look at it and ask the guy if I can look inside to see what was inside of it, and I write down what it was. Oh, rubberized grease paint. Oh, those brushes. And eventually, because no one bought it, it sat in there forever. And finally, he sold me just that little bottle of liquid latex that I was telling you about. And that's what I had forever. It was expensive, but I kept it forever, and tried to use little bits at a time and just do little things on myself. But so anyways, it's just be a student, constantly learn about as much as you can, not only about your position, but about filmmaking in general. I think that's really important.
Excellent. All right, so I have a question for you that is not movie related. Now, people can't tell by looking at you sitting there, but you're 6'7" according to IMDb.
Yeah,
all right, so you're 6'7". I'm 6'3". My dad is also 6'7". My boys are 6'3" and 6'5". Height really isn't an issue in our family. But we're also kind of used to people making silly or, remarks or questions because of our height when we go around all these different places. And, my dad's a big dude, tall and other.
A big dude.
But he's a big dude. He's a walking billboard. He's a large.
The best hugs, though.
Yeah, he does. He's a large, massive man. We love him. But like I said, we've kind of gotten used to all these silly questions and comments. What is the silliest thing the silliest thing that people say to you that you've gotten used to hearing because of being a tall man?
Well, I mean, how tall are you? I mean, that's the one thing. But the thing that happens quite often is when I'm in the grocery store. So
Bingo.
I'll walk down the aisle, and even recently, I'll walk down the aisle in the grocery store, just mind my own business, and then someone will look at me. And honestly, maybe this is my conceitedness. I'm thinking that they recognize me for whatever something. So I'm like, okay, hey, this is the first time it's ever happened. That's cool. And so they'll look at me, and I'll kind of look at them, and they'll look at me, and I'll look at them, and then I'm thinking that they're going to say, "Aren't you Carey Jones?" But they go, "Can you get that from the top shelf and pull that down?" Oh,
every time.
Sure. That happens all the time. Time. So I guess that is a question, right? So I guess that qualifies. That is the most question I'm asked very often. Can you get that off the top shelf? All the time.
Yeah,
I love it when somebody sees somebody tall and they're like, wow, you're really tall. It's like, really? I didn't notice.
the two things that I always get.
It's always. I mean, actually, I don't. Surprising enough, I don't get the question of like how tall are you as much anymore. But I used to. I mean, it's funny because when I was growing up, I hated being tall. I hated it because when I I just a shy dude and I just wanted to fit in, right? And so it was always like I was like up here and everybody was here for a while. And then it was like everybody wanted to play sports and I didn't want to play sports for a while. I mean, I eventually did and I was pretty good, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do anything because of my height. I did everything I could to sort of minimize the fact that I was taller.
Sure.
I didn't like it. And then finally, I was like, I'm tall. Who gives a crap, right? I like it. So after a while, when I learned to live with it and was cool with it, I think then things started to happen for me. And it was more like, oh, you're tall. Hey, I need you to do this. And can you be in this show or this movie or do that? So then, now it's like, what would I have done if I wasn't my height? It's because my son, he's knocking on my door. I mean, I want to say he's like 6'5", 6'6", and he's only 15. So
yeah.
Yikes.
So and I try to tell him, like, don't do what I did. Embrace it. You're tall, great, use it. So he's a really good athlete. So I think he's gonna heed my words and be and embrace
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah, my youngest son is 6'5", and I think he's 19 years old. I think he's actually going through a secondary growth spurt right now. I think he's getting ready to shoot up an inch or two more. And the only bad part about him being 6'5" is that when he was younger, whenever he would get in trouble, because he had this whole time where, while he was a teenager, let's leave it at that. But trying to have a conversation with him, and I'd like grab his shoulders and pull him down to my eye level. I'm like, I am not looking up at you when you're in trouble. I will not look up at you. You will look me in the eye. I'm okay with that, but I'm not looking up. That's not that's not
funny.
a thing.
I had that same experience when my son finally started to shoot up. I basically said to him one day, I think I had to have a conversation with him, a serious conversation, and jokingly, of course, but I said, you know the whole story about goldfish. Goldfish will grow within the confines of the container that they're in. You put them in a small container, they'll grow this big. You put them in a big container, they can get pretty big. That's
sure,
why
yeah.
Different types of gold. So I said, you keep acting like this, I'm going to put you in a small box, and you're not going to grow anymore. I'm going to put you in a small little box. You're not going to grow. Because he just was shooting up, and I'm like, man, like these conversations, it's a little bit more intimidating. Before I could look down on you, and that's all it took. Hey, don't do that again, But now it's like he's looking me in my eyes, and I'm like, all right, yeah, sit down when I talk to you.
Nice.
My mother-in-law has a story of when my husband was little that he tried to boss her around, and she told him that people who are this tall don't tell people who are this tall what to do. And my husband's 6 foot, my mother-in-law's 5'6", and it's like, it doesn't work anymore. She tried to tell him something the other day, and he did the people who are this tall don't tell people who are this tall what to do. And I'm like, oh boy, you are going to get yourself slapped. I'm like, I don't care that you are a 40-year-old man. She is going to slap you.
Still your mama.
Oh, yeah, gotta respect the mama.
Yes,
that's right.
They're scary. Moms are scary. I'm going to try to convince my 3-year-old that moms are scary. Doesn't work, but
I don't know how that works for you.
I'm going to try. So back to the Star Wars universe a little bit, because I have a slightly silly question. And now that I know how big of a Star Wars fan you are, this is going to be I think it's going to be a very fun question. So if you could live anywhere in the Star Wars universe, what planet would you live on? And what do you think you would do for a living?
Wow, what an existential question. For honestly, for a while, I thought that I want to live on Tatooine, and I was like, man, it'd be cool to live on Tatooine, and just because I grew up in the city, so much is going on. So if I had to make a choice, I've never lived that life of just being a farmer and just being out in the desert and have to live off the land, things like that. And I was like, Tatooine would be cool, but now, I don't know. I still feel that way to some degree, especially if I had a spaceship, I could fly to any place I wanted to if I did want to. But I think I want to stick with that. I think I want to stick with Tatooine.
All right, cool.
Definitely.
I like
always
it.
thought that living on Endor would be fun.
Endor would be fun. I mean, I guess Endor would feel more like here, but I don't know. Yeah, like I said, Tatooine. Endor would be fun, but I think for me, Tatooine. I think
Tatooine would
it sounds drab, but I think that would probably be my choice.
I think that the current Michigan weather has made it so that I will never want to live on Hoth. I'm good.
Yeah, no, Hoth would not be.
Hoth
I
was
grew
out
up in
from the
Pittsburgh,
beginning.
Pennsylvania, and we got some terrible cold. And actually, this past winter, I got snowed in Lake Tahoe, where it was like the snowbanks were like taller than me. So it would 100% not be Hoth. No way.
No thanks.
My mom has a cousin who lives in Lake Tahoe, and she was sending pictures of the giant snow mounds and I should probably get my snowblower out. I'm like, that's insane. No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't even know. It was so high. Snowblowers weren't really working. It probably would have blew up. Like, it was bad. But yeah, no Hoth. And it's funny, every time I watch that, I watch Empire, and they're it starts off on Hoth. For some reason, my toes get cold every time. Like that feeling
I can definitely see that.
Like that sort of reflex of like getting frostbite in my toes living in Pittsburgh. Just every time I see that movie, it comes back. I'm like, oh, no, I'm good.
No,
I'm good.
Sandy Planet sounds like a better option.
Yeah, I listen. If I had to refuel, and I absolutely had to stop there, and that was the system that was like where I had to stop before I was good, then I'd do it. But I don't think I'd get out of my my ship. I think I'd probably pay the extra credits to have like a Jawa kind of come out and refuel. And pay the extra credits, so I didn't have to get out of my ship to kind of take off and keep going where I was going.
Is that how the Jawa got the part off the Pike ship?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, listen, maybe. Very much so. Jawas they're bold.
They're resourceful little things.
Yeah, very resourceful.
So we have a Facebook group that is about 199,000 people, and it's just filled with memes of this mixed with this. And so which two characters or projects that you have worked on would you like to see come together to either work together or become nemesis?
Well, one that someone said that I think would be cool. It would be Krrsantan and Predator. I think that'd be like kind of like AVP sort of thing. Like what would happen if these two warriors? Because again, same with the Predator. The Predator is a hand-to-hand combat dude when it comes. I mean, he used his shoulder cannon, but ultimately, when he faced off with another warrior like Arnold, he wanted to do hand-to-hand. I'm telling you, hand-to-hand combat. You face down someone, you best them in hand-to-hand combat. That's like the biggest honor, and he takes that trophy. So I think that if you saw Krrsantan and Predator, his head against the Predator head, I think that would be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I would totally watch that.
I think, and if I got cast to play both, that'd be tough. It'd be kind of some Nutty Professor type stuff. I'd have to be this way and then do the other side of it, and then.
And all of a sudden, all I can imagine is like one half of your body Krrsantan, the other half Predator. You just have to turn to the camera each way.
One shot's made it one way. Like that's funny. That's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, Carey, we're almost done with you here, but we got to the point of the show where we like to run our guests through a little bit of a quiz about themselves.
Oh my. Okay.
This is when I expect our guests to just suddenly disappear.
Like the camera just gonna blink off one of these times.
I can't hear you. I gotta go. I can't hear anything.
Small cheese burger with All right. So this quiz is called Once Upon a Predator. And so what it is, it's 5 questions. Each question is multiple choice. So these are shows or projects that you've been involved with according to IMDb, and it's the year that the show or project launched is what we're looking for. Okay.
Oh, my.
According to IMDb, when you were involved with it. So, okay. So like I said, there's 5 questions. Each of them have 3 options. So there's an ABC for each question. All right. So you'll have 3 choices. Now, if you get 3 of those questions correct, we want to send you one of these cool I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund coffee mugs. All right. And on the back side of it, as Kathleen is showing, has our podcast logo on it. Okay.
All right.
If you
Yours will
get
not
4
come with tape inside of it though.
yes, or pre-drink out of it'll be completely new. And then if you get 4 questions correct, we want to send you that coffee mug along with the book that Nick is holding up. That is written by our group founder, also Nick's dad. But it's written about it's called Dances with Aliens. It's written about a man who's the last man on Earth, or the last man on Earth, but he's a dog, but not a 4-legged dog of, a certain theme park that you might have some affiliation with. But it asks the question, how could intelligent beings develop the technology to travel the cosmos, but yet not recognize a guy in a dog suit? So it's kind of an interesting little story. However, so that's what you get if you win. If you get 2 questions or less, we like to do what we call a fun sequence. We take a picture of you, we make a meme out of you, and we put you into our group like that. Are you okay with that?
Okay. Well, so it depends on what the memes are.
The meme would be it'll be very tastefully done. We
All right,
gotta
okay,
remember our show is family friendly, so we will keep it family friendly. And you'll be in good company. Dan Povenmire from Phineas and Ferb is a former meme recipient. And I don't know if you know Amber Hollinger. She's also a meme recipient. And a few other people as well, but they're all tastefully done. Nothing that will be nothing that will make you go, oh my, what did I agree to? So
Nothing scandalous.
yes,
Nothing
exactly.
that'll make you get in contact with our lawyers because
exactly.
we don't have any.
So, and then as a reminder, so what we're looking for here is, according to IMDb, the launch year of the show or movie that it said you were involved with. Okay.
All right.
Scooby-Doo, Curse of the Lake Monster. Was it 2010, 2001, or 2011?
Well, I know it wasn't 2001. You said 2010 or 2011. I'm gonna go with 2011.
Ooh, off by 1. It was 2010.
I knew it was one of the two, because sometimes it's when I work on it that it comes out like a year later.
Mhm.
So in
Right.
my mind, it's like the year that I worked on it. All right, very good. Next one.
All right. The Watchmen series. Is that 2021, 2014, or 2019?
2019.
That is
Very
correct.
good. All right, 1 and 1.
Fear the Walking Dead. 2010, 2020, or 2015?
You said Fear of the Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Okay. Say it again. Say those again.
2010, 2020, or 2015?
2015.
Yes.
Correct. All right, so 2 and 1.
All right. Mayor of Easttown. Is it 2001, 2021, or 2015?
2021.
That is
Very
correct.
good. All right, that's the coffee mug, sir.
Whoop, whoop. You escaped from the meme verse.
I think
I
this
don't know,
one's
but
like
now you make the meme sound so cool, though. All right, keep going.
We make it sound cool, but it's not really.
this one's probably the gimme. Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, 2022.
Oh, okay.
That is
There you
I
go.
was waiting for. I was letting you give me the options.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so that gets you the coffee mug and the book. So after we say goodbye to everybody, hang around a quick second and we'll get your shipping information. Okay.
That was good.
Well, Carey, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about what you're doing now?
Right now, my Instagram, Carey L Jones, at Carey L Jones. I'm keeping a little bit of a low profile until after the season's over. You know, I don't want to spoil it for the fans. So, but you know, I drop little things on there here and there, but I'll probably put more on, you know, after the finale is. So everybody watch finale this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will definitely link your Instagram in our show description so that our listeners can find you.
All right. And we want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help the show continue to grow. It's that little button down there. Just hit it once. Don't hit it twice. But we want to make sure that if you do that, it helps us to continue to grow, helps us to continue to get amazing guests like Carey Jones here today to talk about all these cool things that he's been a part of and much more. So please subscribe. It helps us more than you'll ever really know. And be sure to go check out Carey's site over on Instagram. Follow his page for some more cool content as well. Now, however, if for whatever reason you're unhappy with the content of today's show, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the bounty hunter, Black Krrsantan, where for the right price, every offender is looked at like he's a Trandoshan and likely to have his arms ripped off. But on the off chance you catch him on a good day, the offenders may get away with just a punch from those sparkly little knuckle dusters he has. Either way, I suppose it's really going to hurt. So, friends, please report responsibly, if nothing else, for our sake.
Well, thanks again, guys.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening to Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wishbana Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt Crewman number 72. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins Boba Fett in the fight against the Pikes, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and what's left of his mascot.
And speaking of sponsors and show partners, check out this short video from our good friends over at Level Up Lightsabers. Information about Level Up Lightsabers and their online training sessions can be found in the episode description below.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2020 by Drayton Allen. Original music by Jordan Michaels. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned in this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of or by Funny Science Fiction or its sponsors. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at DraytonAllen@DraytonAllen.com.